All right, we are broadcasting live. Welcome to Phil's First Party Parlay, where we talk all things timely and topical in the insurance restoration industry. We're going to do the intro a little different than most shows because we have our New York City lawyer, Amanda Peterson, joining us. Hi, Amanda. Thank you for being here with us this evening.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me. It's just an introduction. So it is 7 o'clock. I just want to do our typical round of applause for our healthcare workers and our first responders and thank them so much for all that they've done throughout this and what they continue to do every day.
That's why we're doing the intro a little bit different. Typically, I intro the show, I intro the guest, I intro the law firm. We're presented by Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group. But being in New York City and being straight up 7 o'clock when we start, we've got to give our proper acknowledgement to the first responders, even though, as I understand it from you, Amanda, and others that I know up there, that with the somewhat phased in reopening, it's not as extravagant and as joyful as the acknowledgement used to be. Is that fair?
Well, it's still very joyful and exciting, and you always know what time it is. At least you always know when it's 7 o'clock in the evening. But no, it's nice to hear everyone clapping and cheering on. But it's definitely died down a little bit now. But that's a good thing.
Good deal. On the one hand, that's a good thing. Well, let me now intro the show a little bit more like we would typically do. I'm Phil Sanoff, trial lawyer with Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group. With Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group, I have got 55 of the most awesome attorney colleagues you would ever want to know. We are in 25 offices, 13 states, all across the country. If you have any problem with an insurance claim, you need to come see us. We are here for you wherever you are. You can reach us through our website, forthepeople.com. Hit pound LAW from any cell phone, anywhere, or just get me on my personal cell, 713-825-3444. Morgan & Morgan Insurance Recovery Group, come see us. Joining me tonight, as I say, one of those awesome colleagues, Amanda Peterson, in our New York City office. Thank you again, Amanda. We can do this all over again.
Thank you for that generous introduction, Phil.
All right. One of the things that I like to do is introduce folks a little bit more as we go in. One of the great things that folks need to know about Amanda is that she has been practicing insurance recovery law for over 8 years there in New York City. She has coordinated and participated multi-million-dollar trials, jury trials, on behalf of policyholders all over the country, so many different types of cases. Amanda has the great kind of experience that you folks need to help you with your insurance claim litigation. These are the types of claims that need experienced trial lawyers that know what to do, and Amanda is just one of those folks. Amanda, thank you again for being with us on the show, and my colleague in New York City. The way the show works, I'm a trial lawyer, so I believe in the power of three. I always have the guest introduce 3 points that we're going to focus on for some time. Then we come back to each point one at a time to talk in more detail about the points. Typically, as you've talked about, as our pre-show preparation, those points are going to segue one to the other. What a great show we've got for the folks here. That leads me to one last thing before we turn it straight over to you, Amanda. We've got some attendees here, so you need to just focus on talking to them about the points you need to talk about to showcase you and your practice and let folks know what you can do for them. I will monitor both the chat room and the attendees. If they know how to hover over their name, that will give the electronic function to raise their hand. We can unmute them to ask you a question. If they don't want to use that function, they can type a question in to the chat room, and I will share that with Amanda to address anything that any of the attendees want to know. So I say that to segue in to you, Amanda, so that they are ready for you to tell them your 3 points that we're going to discuss for them this evening.
All right, Phil. Well, thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and I'm glad to be here and welcome everyone who's attending tonight. I'm glad you can join us and learn a little bit more about the Morgan & Morgan New York City office and what we do. So let's go over our 3 points because Bill believes in the power of 3. So point 1, I'm going to go with just a little brief introduction into first party and some other practice areas I do. 2 is timing is everything because New York is always in a rush and we never have a lot of time, and you don't have a lot of time with your insurance claims here. And 3 is important tips and documents you need for your insurance claims. So with that,
Fantastic. With that, we're moving right into number 1. Go, Amanda. Tell us about your various practice areas, the insurance recovery issues that we cover, and then you've got some other very unique that we won't go into in great detail this evening. We'll have you back on another show to focus on those practice areas, but we do want to introduce them to start showcasing them this evening, please.
all right. So first thing is first is we're all about insurance recovery group. So what are first party insurance claims? So for those of you who don't know what that is, first party insurance claims is you have a policy with your insurance company. Doesn't matter what type of policy it is. You have a policy and that insurance company either lowballs your insurance claim, they're taking too long to pay your insurance claim, or they flat out deny your insurance claim. And that leads you to litigation. So that is a first party insurance litigation claim. We do all different types of insurance policies. So whether it's a property damage policy, and that would include anything from a fire, wind damage, hail damage, cyber crime policies. You know, for some businesses there's commercial general liability policies, officer and executive policies, life insurance policies, all different kinds of insurance policies. If you have insurance, you have a lawyer because we know how to deal with it here at Morgan & Morgan.
Whatever kind of policy it is, as Amanda was saying, it always can start for us with them saying no, with them playing too slow or paying too low. When that happens to you and you're in the greater New York area, you need to go see Amanda.
Absolutely. And just to briefly go into some of my little nuanced areas that I practice in, I also handle adjacent construction damage claims. And I know Phil's going to ask me, what is an adjacent construction damage claim?
Amanda, that is so interesting. Help us understand. It really was new to me the first time we talked about it. Tell us, what is an adjacent construction claim, please?
So an adjacent damage construction claim particularly applies a lot here in New York City and other urban areas, because if you've ever walked around New York, all the buildings are kind of smushed up right next to each other, and a lot of times you share the same wall. So what happens, and if you walk around any of my blocks, and especially now that we're into phase 1, there is construction happening everywhere. And because we're such an old city, we also have some buildings that are over 100 years old and they have older foundations. So when they have new construction that comes in, it can cause a lot of damage to the adjacent property, whether it's through excavation, underpinning, vibrations, blasting, dewatering. All of that can cause, cracking and shifting to your building. And in New York City, the owner and construction contractor are all strictly liable for anyone who does excavation work that ultimately causes damage to your building.
Strictly liable.
There's a lot there. Yep,
So
strictly liable.
That explains a lot for my sake. That's a lot like some of the insurance work that we do. We're going to have to do another show where we showcase that part of the practice and other parts of the practice that are not strictly insurance related, because there's just so much there to unpack that we need to make sure folks know about. Thank you. Any others? What are some additional areas for you?
Honestly, I do also any kind of contract dispute resolution, anything like that. So if you have any kind of construction contract, I also handle those. I've handled mechanics liens. And we are also handling the funeral home cases out in Brooklyn and some other negligence actions up here as well. So we're pretty busy right now.
Aha. So we've virtually got a full service plaintiff's type practice going on through you with our New York City office.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. I'm so glad to know that. I'm so glad that we're able to get that out there to let folks know about this through this vehicle for you. Where does that take us? If we've wrapped number one, I don't want to cut it short. If you've got more,
All
please,
right.
we got to fill that in.
No, let's go on to
Okay.
point number 2 because we're short on time and timing is everything. And that is
Aha!
point number 2.
See what
See how
I
I
did there
did that? I
for
brought
you?
it right back.
Nice.
Brought that right back. So let's go back to insurance because construction is for another day. So the timing is everything. So if you have an insurance claim, irrespective of whatever it is, again, going back to if it's a property damage claim or if
Okay.
an executive officer's claim and you get served with a lawsuit or you have a cybercrime policy or anything like that, you don't want to sit and wait to tell the insurance company, hey, I have a claim, I've suffered damage here, give me coverage. You don't want to sit and be like, well, maybe I want to, talk to this person and see what they think, or talk to my neighbor, or let me do all these little things. You want to get in front of your insurance company and notify them right away. Because here in New York, we do have laws that if the insurance company gets late notice and it prejudices their investigation into your claim, whether they can't, fully evaluate the condition of the property or what exactly happened there, or there's evidence that's been destroyed, they can deny a valid claim just for late notice alone. And you don't ever want to be that person that took too long to file a claim to give an insurance company an easy out.
So those types of laws vary from state to state. Some states are a prejudice state, must show distinct prejudice state. Some states are more lenient on the late notice. I'm in Texas. Texas is kind of in the middle with the late notice versus prejudice. But what we need folks to understand where you are for the New York claims is that New York state law is pretty strict on that.
Right. New York is pretty strict on that, but it is a prejudice standard. So once you have an insurance company that's claiming late notice, you have to prove how they weren't prejudiced by you making a late claim, and then they have to come back and show how they were prejudiced by making a late claim. It goes around and around, but you don't ever want to be in that position. You
The
always
moral
want to be
to
like,
the story, right. The moral to the story is just give the notice and get you and get after it, right?
Right. And it's very important to make sure that you get your notice of claim in writing or a claim acknowledgement from the insurance company so you know that you have it and you don't have to worry about it later. And that includes even if you notify your insurance broker.
Now, speaking of timing is everything and New York being strict about short time limits, what else do we need to make sure folks know about up there that they could be on a short time limit to be able to know they can maintain their claim going forward?
Right. So with New York, we have very odd statute of limitations, and not odd in the sense, it's unusual, but it's odd in the sense that some other states are different. So typically, in a normal breach of contract, which is where you're bringing your insurance claim under if you're going against your insurance company, typically it's 6 years from the date of the breach, and that is how you would normally fight. But in New York, there is law that allows parties to make the time period much shorter. So in New York, it's perfectly valid for an insurance policy to have a 1-year statute of limitation.
1 year, right.
1 year. That's all you have from the date of the law. Now, there are variances on that. Typically, when I see insurance policies, most of them are 1 or 2 years. But that's something that you need to be aware of because that also goes to your notice issue, because if you wait too long, and then you might not only be, prejudicing the insurance company, but you might also be waiving your claim entirely, and you do not want to be in that position.
Let me say one more time, we've got some attendees over here. Attendees, Amanda is ready and willing and able for any questions. So if you want to do the electronic hand raise function, I will unmute your audio, or you can type a question into the chat and I will read it to Amanda for that purpose. Now, what else, Amanda, on the timing is everything? We've talked about you've got to give the notice. We've talked about what I think is just unfair to make folks only have 1 year, because once an insurance company knows that the courts will acknowledge a 1 year statute, of course they're going to put the contractual shortening to 1 year in virtually every insurance policy, as I understand it up there. Anything else that we need to make sure that folks are aware of for the timing is everything short timing on the New York, litigating a New York insurance claim?
Well, with respect to those 2 points, that's why it's so important to have a copy of your policy. There is one exception to the statute of limitations rule in New York, which is in a fire loss, you automatically have 2 year statute of limitation. That is statutory, so that is the one exception. But if your loss has anything else other than fire, you're stuck to whatever the contract says. So that goes into our point number 3, I like to call document everything, and important tips for your insurance claims. So, your lawyers love documents.
Please.
Yes.
Got it.
Sorry, Phil, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I think I had a lag.
No.
So, document everything. We love documents, and we love having insurance policies. And the most common problem that I see very often is most people don't know what their insurance policy looks like, or never reviewed it, or don't even have a copy of it. And they just kind of rely on whatever, the little piece of paper that they get in the mail that might be a couple pages, or the email that they get, okay, you're insured, but what does that say? And you never want to wait until after you file a claim to go back to the insurance company and say, oh, can you please send me a copy of my policy? I want to make sure I have coverage, especially if there's some issues there.
Oh, hey, send it to me now. Right.
Not to throw any insurance companies under the bus, but all of a sudden you'll find out that, oops, it's taking us a very long time to get you a copy, or they won't send you the full thing. And I like to use visual aids because I'm a very visual person.
Please.
So I want to show everyone an example of the difference. So this is what you typically get in the mail, or what they'll normally send you. It's a standard renewal, and it just has a lot of the exclusions, and it's maybe about 15, 20 pages long. This is not your full insurance policy. Do not be fooled by this. This is your typical homeowner's insurance policy.
Yeah.
So very, very big difference between what you get and what you need. So make sure you get this one and not the other one. So that's number 1.
All right.
So then going into document everything, and especially nowadays where we're having, all these different types of losses. Like recently, I know a lot of, stores and merchants have suffered some vandalism and theft losses. We've had some crazy storms going on down south with lots of hail damage and even some wind damage. So you get a claim. What do you want to do? You want to, aside from notifying the insurance company, and the key words with notifying the insurance company is don't limit yourself. You don't want to say, I only am asking for coverage for my hail damage to my roof. You want to make sure that I want all coverage for all damage under my policy. Am I right on that, Phil?
Absolutely. You took the words right out of my mouth, Amanda. That was glorious. Yes.
So that's very important that you make sure you do there. And then 2, going to document everything, you want to make sure you get out there and look at the property, assuming that it's safe. But you want to make sure you're out there and you're taking photographs of any of the damage. You want to make sure that you are notifying the appropriate authorities. So, for example, if you do have a theft or vandalism loss, you do need to call the police and make sure you get a police report. If it's something that has to do with construction, because there is certain policies where construction damage is covered, you want to make sure you're notifying those appropriate authorities here too in New York, whether it's the Department of Buildings so the Department of Environmental Protection. But you need to make sure whoever the appropriate authority is, that they get notice and that you document it, because you don't want to have the insurance company coming back at you for not telling the right people that there was some type of emergency with your home. And just as a side note, with fire losses, you always want to make sure you request a copy of the fire marshal report. That's always very helpful and handy to have. So with all those documents, and then taking pictures of all of your damage.
And it's so easy with the world today, the smartphones. So many people, virtually everyone has a smartphone or has someone in their inner circle. My mom doesn't have a smartphone, but all of us kids and her grandkids have smartphones. If my mom had a loss, we could go take pictures, every room, every floor, every wall, every bit of the stuff that's in it. It's just so easy to keep those pictures. We've got to get people in line with taking the pictures to document everything they've got.
And even videos are super helpful too. If it's a large area and you really want to, sometimes a picture doesn't show everything. Sometimes you get a nice, like, almost like a virtual tour where you're walking through the property with all the damages, which is always kind of nice to have. And not just physical property damage, a lot of business policies and even homeowner policies, your content and your items are also insured. And those are the things that most people are very quick to throw away or get rid of or chuck because they either got destroyed or wet or burnt up. And you want to make sure that you're taking photographic evidence of any of the damaged property, but to the extent that it is completely destroyed, you want to make sure you have an inventory while it's fresh in your mind of everything that's been damaged and what was in your house so you can properly prepare your claim.
When we lost our house to Hurricane Harvey flood a few years ago, we had no idea to come up with an inventory to list everything. You can't function, your mind's not right, you're at a very vulnerable, difficult place. But I knew enough to know that beforehand, we needed to take pictures, every wall, every floor, every ceiling, and all the stuff. And then after, the same thing. We recreated the inventory. When you talk about documenting everything, we went back and recreated the inventory to submit from the pictures. And so in addition to being able to show the condition before and after on a damage claim like that, it's so helpful for your stuff. No one ever can tell what they had with stuff, but you take a picture and you just go through there recreating the inventory. So that's another helpful way of more documentation. We're talking about document everything. The pictures can help you recreate your stuff to make sure you file your claim right.
And just another little helpful resource at Morgan & Morgan. I know plenty of companies and people that are qualified and ready, willing, and able to go out and help you document damage, put together your inventory, and help you prepare that for the insurance company when you do file your claim or get the quantum of the loss, so to speak, when it comes to contents and personal items and business property.
Another glorious part of the resources we have here with Morgan & Morgan Insurance.
Absolutely.
You bet. What else do we have, Amanda? We've got a few minutes left, so fill us with more info if you have.
Sure. So another thing that you might want to have, especially whether it's an expensive piece of property, whether it's like a painting, a piece of art, jewelry, or even like an expensive piece of equipment that you have that you purchased recently, make sure that you always keep copies of any appraisal certificates, purchase orders, and any types of receipts, which also kind of leads me to, another common thing that we see with a lot of homeowner property damage claims is a lot of times that insurance companies will say, well, this isn't really from wind or hail. The house is not well maintained or it's wear and tear, and this is typical. So I always encourage my clients and other homeowners and even property owners business property owners to a certain extent, to make sure you keep all of your maintenance records somewhere handy and backed up. This way you can show, I just replaced my roof a year ago, or I just had someone out here and inspect it 6 months ago, or whatever that is, so you can make sure you can defend against any type of lack of maintenance or wear and tear, which are very common defenses that get brought up. And, reasons that insurance companies unfortunately deny claims when you're in a moment of crisis.
Whether the defense or the reasoning is authentic or not, you're going to be accused of a lack of maintenance and a wear and tear. Being able to prove that when they bring it up is so helpful. That's a very good point, Amanda. Thank you.
Right. And probably last on that note, I'll wrap up, is that as you know, and I know, Phil, because you're on our task force team with this, when it comes to business records for business interruption claims. And that's another long webinar that we can sit and talk about. And I know that our fearless leader, Mark Nation, is doing Q&As every Thursday. So make sure to tune into those. But just a little sub point, if you have a business interruption claim, you want to make sure that you back up and keep books and records or rent rolls if it's a commercial building or you have tenants, or your profit and loss statement. That's always very helpful, and your taxes, which you should be keeping anyway. But you want to make sure you have those handy when the insurance company is looking for them. You don't want to have to sit and scramble to try and find all your tax records.
Fantastic, Amanda. Fantastic. Well, we're wrapping up here. We've got about 2 minutes before we have a hard stop. So I'm not telling you that you've got to stretch anything if we haven't covered it, but I do want to make sure that you have plenty of time to formulate and tell us any last thing you want to say. Okay, here we go. Phyllis, one of our attendees, extremely informative and well presented. I will be reaching out to my clients for Amanda's help as soon as this epidemic slows down. Thank you, Miss Phyllis. Thanks to both of you for this. And yes,
thank you, Phyllis.
Please do a business interruption webinar soon. We'll actually have a business interruption webinar, Phyllis, tomorrow at noon. If you found the link on my Facebook page, on my personal page, or my business page, links for a business interruption webinar at noon Central, 1 Eastern tomorrow, will probably be one of the last ones that we do on a regular basis. We're not doing the Thursday webinars with our senior partner, Mark Nation, these days, because there are too many business interruption cases that he's working all day, every day. So Phyllis, thank you so much for the comment there. And please look on the Facebook pages, or if there's a way to, let me I'll hold up my cell number. Again, I said it one time, but my wife always laughs at me for putting this on the internet. If you will send me a note to 713-825-3444, I will make sure to send you the specific registration link for the business interruption webinar tomorrow at noon Central, 1 Eastern time. Thank you again, Phyllis. Really appreciate that comment. Well, we've just about used up our time now, Amanda, but I want to give you one more shot to give us a good evening, goodbye, whatever you need to say. You've got a minute if you need it.
I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and listening to me, and thank you, Phil, for having me on my show. But I just want to make sure, just kind of like Phil did, like, we are here for you. We are everywhere, whenever you need, 24/7. We have lawyers that are working around the clock, including myself. And if you need to call me, I will also give out my cell phone number, and you can call me directly or text me anytime. 561-346-2362, or you can email me at apeterson@forthepeople.com, and I will be here for you, and Phil will be here for you to help you with any of your insurance claims.
Wherever we are here for you, wherever you are. And with that, Amanda, thank you. We have the Phil's First Party Parlay, special guest Amanda Peterson, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan Insurance Recovery Group. Have a great evening. We're good. We're gone. We're gone. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye, Phil. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Great show.